A massive $1 trillion bank just made another bombshell Bitcoin prediction for 2025. And honestly, it's got a lot of people confused. The bank isn't the only giant that has come out incredibly bullish on Bitcoin this week. But before we get there, let's play this Michael Saylor clip that's blowing up the internet.
For our company, if we were to ever get to 5% of the network's going to be at least $1 million a coin. If we were to go beyond it, it's going to 10 million a coin. So when we get to 7% of the network, if we do, and Bitcoin is $10 million a coin, and if BlackRock keeps up with us, that means 85% of the network, right? And you're going to be talking about $200 trillion. So you're going to have $170 trillion that will flow to the individuals. So they're not exactly getting crowded out, right? If anything, what you've got is the corporations are all engines turning the flywheel of the Bitcoin economy. Every single company, every Bitcoin treasury company that capitalizes on Bitcoin is like attaching a motor to the network, and every time that company buys $50 million worth of Bitcoin, they spin that drive shaft one turn. That's one day's natural supply, right? And so the more companies that come on, whether it's BlackRock or whether it's Strategy or whether it's MetaPlanet or whether it's 21 or whether it's BSTR, or whether it's similar, whoever it might be, each one of them is firing up a motor. All of the motors are powering up the network. If you're an individual and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage the Bitcoin, and you let all the companies power up the network.
You heard it there. The man said all cylinders are firing up. But of course, I am not alone today. I have the great Chris Alemo co-hosting with me.
How's it going, Sophie? Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here because I've never hosted the show. This is my first time. So if you'd like me to host the show more, smash the like button, send the show to your friends. We're going to get started. Michael Saylor talking about more institutions, more companies getting into Bitcoin. There's been a lot of bullish news around this, especially with companies saying that it's actually better to start holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet versus cash. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the Bitcoin thesis playing out. As we know, like Bitcoin is the hardest and best form of money there is. I know Michael Saylor was talking about the $170 trillion that's moving into the asset through corporations. I know that Greg Foss and a lot of the bond traders have talked about negative yielding bonds, about 126 trillion in negative yielding bonds. So, why would I lend the government or governments or corporations, money at 4 or 5, 6%, let's just say, when I know that the real inflation or the real CPI is way higher than those returns. So basically it's like, hey, I'm going to loan you $100 and you're going to guarantee that you're going to pay me back $97, $98 in purchasing power. I know that's kind of hard for people to grasp the concept because nominally it's like, oh, well, I lent you $100 and you're going to give me back $105 nominally, but that $105 only buys you $98 worth of goods or $97 worth of goods. These are obviously, things that can be debated depending on what you're assuming the inflation rate is, obviously depending on your circumstance. Inflation is kind of a vector. That's a famous Michael Saylor quote, but it's also very dependent. The inflation rate of a young man living in his mother's basement that only buys pizza, that remains the same cost. His inflation rate 0. But if you're trying to get into the housing market, if you're having kids are getting more expensive. If you're trying to save up for, the stock market, let's just say you're investing in the stock market's getting more and more expensive. But we see Bitcoin as a fair and distributed way to retain your earnings and save your purchasing power, obviously.
Absolutely, Chris. I love the point that you made. It's not just the institutions that are feeling bullish about Bitcoin. I think regular households are starting to see the returns of Bitcoin and storing your wealth in a harder asset. And that brings me to my next topic. We have this tweet from Walter Bloomberg, about Bitcoin poised for new high. He's making the prediction through a Yahoo article that says Bitcoin could reach $135,000 soon. Let's read a little bit of this article. Bitcoin could reach a new all-time high as soon as next week and keep climbing to $135,000. Standard Chartered's global head of digital assets research said in a new note shared with Decrypt. Yesterday, Bitcoin soared above 121,000, and currently we're at 123,000, so we're pumping, keeping stride with a Q4 pattern that's been coined Uptober. Early Friday morning, Bitcoin was trading for around 120,420, 1.3% higher than this time yesterday, according to the data from crypto price aggregator CoinGecko. Although BTC looks to be keeping up its Uptober tradition, Standard Chartered's Jeff Kendrick said it has ditched its pattern of seeing prices fall 18 months after the halving. If that had been the case, the April 2024 halving would have been followed by price weakness right now. But it really just looks like it's all up from here. What are your thoughts, Chris?
I think we're in Uptober. I think that, obviously that's a very good call when right now we're inching up against all-time highs. I guess we've dipped a little bit, but $123,500. The previous all-time high was $124,400. So we're not too far off the all-time highs. Market cap right now at $2.45 trillion. So yeah, I think it's a good call. We're going to see where it goes. I do think Uptober is a thing. I know that in historical trends, when you look at previous cycles or halving cycles, it says anywhere from the bull market can be anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But even I think the previous one, we kind of had that false double top. And we were talking about it, and basically it can go as far as 24 months. But, I think a lot of people are waiting, always there are the trends in Bitcoin, the famous meme by American Hodl of green, green, red, meaning that we have that 80% crash and then we're slowly building up. And then third year is like a blow off top and then we crash down again, still normally remaining above the previous all-time high. But I do think that Bitcoin's due for a rip. Normally, a lot of the gold bugs or boomer friends that are kind of in the gold or silver markets are always saying, normally gold and silver move first, and gold and silver have kind of been on a tear this year. And normally Bitcoin follows that. So, the gold bugs, the Peter Schiffs, I know that's a buddy of yours, Sophie, are always rubbing it in our faces saying oh yeah, gold, it's good. Bitcoin's dead. You guys are idiots. We're going to have our boomer rock and outperform you. And then only for subsequently, normally 6 to 12 months later, Bitcoin rips and roars and goes past them. So I guess, Sophie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the interesting things is that Standard Chartered is not a retail influencer. It's an old and conservative kind of institutional bank. And so when they publicly reaffirm high targets, they're telling people internally and externally that Bitcoin is now part of their macro thesis. 5 years ago, this would have absolutely never happened. I still remember when people were making fun of Bitcoin, and now all of these companies are jumping over each other to try to stack sats. So I want to check out this article here that I pulled up a little bit prematurely, but Crypto Quant says Bitcoin price could hit 160,000 to 200,000 in Q4 if demand keeps going. So 200,000 at the end of the year is starting to seem pretty possible, especially when we had kind of a stagnant September and really only a 25% increase in the entire year. A take like this is pretty awesome. Bitcoin has entered the final quarter of 2025 with conditions that suggest a price rally may be underway, according to on-chain analytics firm Crypto Quant. The firm said Bitcoin could reach a price range of 160,000 to 200,000 by the year's end if demand continues to expand. And according according to that Michael Saylor clip that we had seen, it looks like demand is expanding. The motor is running not just on individuals, but on these institutions. And if these institutions keep going, it's only a matter of time before retail catches on. The article keeps going. Spot demand for Bitcoin has been rising since July, with apparent demand increasing at a monthly pace for more than 62,000 Bitcoin, CryptoQuant said. The firm noted that this kind of sustained demand precedes previous fourth quarter rallies in 2020, 2021, and 2024, red circles. So things are looking pretty bullish. I'm really excited for, the rest of this month, and I'm excited for, of course, what are we calling November? If this is October, what's November? Because that's
I don't know.
actually
We gotta create the meme for it.
No
stop November. We're going up. We're going up to the moon.
We're going up to the moon. Oh God.
No.
So what are your thoughts on this, Chris? What do you think these signals are kind of giving? I know that there's also some policy changes happening possibly in Washington with regard to Bitcoin and crypto. I read an article the other day that Coinbase is proposing to Congress to possibly take capital gains out of certain transactions. So, the stage is set. And we've been saying this all year. There's never been a year with better news for Bitcoin. What else can we look forward to in these last 3 months?
I think that kind of like what you said, like the year's kind of been set up that it's building in anticipation, and everything that we've been waiting for is except for the price to move. I mean, hash rate passed 1 zettahash, which is 1,000 octahashes. So, we're at a new metric that hash rate's hitting all-time highs. Obviously, I think not the Bitcoin treasury companies, the Bitcoin ETFs came out last January, and normally they were starting with very nominal portfolio allocations, like 0.5%, 0.25%, maybe up to 1% if you're bullish. But I think even BlackRock and a lot of these legacy institutions outside of Vanguard, but I can take my pot shots at them. But, now they're updating anywhere from 1 to 3% allocation. And, Sophie, you and I have been in this long enough that, start with just dipping your toes in 0.5%, 1%, 5%, then Bitcoin rips. And then you're like, oh crap, it's now 10% of my allocation. But then you're like, maybe I should keep buying this. And then it keeps becoming more and more percentage of your portfolio. Obviously, you and I are probably further into it or have larger portion of our net worth in Bitcoin than most. But not financial advice, but even the legacy.
I think that's going to start becoming the norm, though. I think that a lot of people, like I said, if these big institutions are realizing it, and if corporations are realizing it, that means that employees are going to start copying this and implementing it in their own homes. It's only really a matter of time, especially when you look at the cost of living. Like you had mentioned, it's getting even more and more expensive to just get basic groceries, have children, actually live your life, because we are all trapped in the money rate and in the rat race that fiat kind of fuels. So there's another article that I found here from JP Morgan. Let me pull it up really quick. Sorry, guys. I'm also producing. So JP Morgan states the obvious demand for gold and Bitcoin is the debasement trade, which probably is driving Jamie Dimon wild, because we all know that he was kind of a hater. But now, even the haters will have to bend the knee to Bitcoin. And at first, yes, they're making the case for gold because that's just what these boomers know and traditional investors know. But all roads lead to Bitcoin. Let's read a little bit of this article. Kitco News says, in a comment that feels a little obvious and late to the party, analysts at JP Morgan have officially defined the unprecedented rally in gold and, to a lesser extent, Bitcoin. Again, it's to a lesser extent because people don't tend to really invest in what they don't know. And the learning curve for Bitcoin can be a little overwhelming for some. It is, at the end of the day, a very tech-heavy sort of asset to get into. But anyway, in a recent note, analysts at JP Morgan observed that retail investors have begun to feel FOMO. For alternative assets such as gold and cryptocurrencies, a trend that they're calling the debasement trade. I just want to know whose little cousin or nephew or niece told their uncle working at JP Morgan Chase, have fun staying poor. Anyway, the bank explained that retail investment demand reflects a combination of factors, which in our client conversations range from elevated geopolitical and party uncertainty to uncertainty about the longer term inflation backdrop, to concerns about debt debasement due to persistently high government deficits across major economies, to concerns about Fed independence, to waning confidence in fiat currencies in certain emerging markets in particular, and to a broad diversification away from the US dollar. Honestly, I feel like all of these people just have family members that are Bitcoiners, and they've just been hammering the point over and over and over again, because these are never conclusions that people in traditional financing would ever get to. Like, maybe they've thought about it, but they'd never admit it to themselves. Why? Because it goes against their own interests. So finally, the Bitcoiners have gotten in there, and we've just been pummeling these people to the ground with facts to the point where they can't deny it anymore, right? They can't deny the fact that Bitcoin is the next biggest thing. They have to cushion it with, saying, oh, we're also going to buy some gold, because that's what they're used to. But they know. They know, and we know that they know, and they know that they can't fight this. Have you had those experiences in your family, Chris?
Of course, yeah, we're the crazy Bitcoin people. Well, even remember Jamie Dimon. So in January or February of 2024, that was in the Davos summit. And when Andrew Sorkin was asking about Bitcoin, obviously the ETFs had just launched. And basically Jamie Dimon's like, I don't like it. But like, basically he was capitulating because his customers were saying, hey, like they were demanding it. And then even, he kind of capitulates himself, Jamie Dimon, and says, like, he's like, yeah, I got on the phone with my daughter, and my daughter's around our age, Sophie. She's a millennial in her 20s or 30s. And she's like, Dad, stop bashing on Bitcoin. I own some. And so, of course, Jamie Dimon had to be like, all right, like, maybe his daughter was the one that's trying to orange pill him at Thanksgiving or Christmas, or telling him that she's an idiot.
I've been that daughter. I've literally been that daughter who orange pills her dad and bullies him. And you know what? He's happier for it. He called me this morning and he said, you were right again. So, let your daughters and your sons teach you something, because you never know. They might just make you rich. But anyway, Chris, sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
No worries. So yeah, we're kind of the crazy Bitcoiners in our family, obviously trying to orange pill people. What's the saying that Opti always says in the show? We're trying to scam you into financial freedom and financial success. I definitely think that is something that we're trying to do here.
That's the whole show. We just want you to live a better life. And live a better life you will if you stack sats and keep going. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing show for you guys today. We want to throw it to our lead sponsor, bitcoinwell.com. Bitcoinwell is where you can stack your sats, and they will send you all of your Bitcoin. I'm getting yelled at in the chat, sorry. And they will send you all of your Bitcoin directly to your cold storage. We love Bitcoin Well because it's easy to use. My entire family, friends, everybody uses Bitcoin Well. And if you want to get started today, sign up with Simply Bitcoin. We've made it super easy for you. Just scan the QR code below. And we're about to have a great show. So if you like what you're seeing, smash the like button, share the show with your friends. We're going to get into the numbers, guys. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
And as requested, StampSeed has just released a new plate. It's 12 words. You want to get it. I'm pulling up the QR code. It's right there. Get 15% off with promo code SIMPLY or just scan the QR code. We've made it very, very easy for you. Anyway, let's get into the numbers. Clark Moody's dashboard. The price of Bitcoin at the time of recording is $122,320. Sats per dollar, 818. Market cap, 2.44 trillion. And I had the hash rate up here. I'm not sure what happened to it. I lost the hash rate, guys. But anyway, let's move on to...
I got the hash rate here for you.
You got the hash rate? Okay,
yeah.
pull it up.
1,000. Or I can share my screen if you want.
Yeah, share your screen. Share your screen.
Clark Moody's dashboard share.
Boom.
All right, how do I zoom in here?
Chris to the rescue.
Oh no, it just there we go. Hash
Yeah,
rate.
like
So,
it disappeared.
hash rate 1,053 ectahashes or 1.053 zeta hash. So I know that there was an ongoing bet with our good friend Tatum as well as Adam, Denver BTC. I forget which side of the bet was on, but they were saying that it was going to get to 1 zeta hash before the end of 2025. So yeah, I can't believe we're here even before December, before the end of the year, but crazy to hit this milestone.
Amazing.
Right,
I completely agree. Okay, let me pull up this tweet from Simply Bitcoin, quoting Jack Mallers. Bitcoin can change the world because the world can't change Bitcoin. Let's watch the video.
Let me tell you something. For everything in life, with more demand, you will find more supply. If everyone in the world wants an iPhone, Apple can make more supply and give everyone an iPhone. If everyone in the world wants a McDonald's cheeseburger, McDonald's will make sure they find a way to make every single customer a cheeseburger. The only thing where that's not true is Bitcoin. If everyone in the world wants a Bitcoin, we cannot engineer more Bitcoins. It's the only fixed supply, the only truly scarce thing in the world. Bitcoin can change the world because the world cannot change Bitcoin. The world can change iPhones. The world can change hamburgers. The world can change stocks. The world can change real estate. The world can change the dollar. The world cannot change Bitcoin. It is the only scarce engineered asset in the history of our species. So therefore, Bitcoin's the only thing in the world where more demand has to find a higher price. If you want more Bitcoin, you have to get it out of the market, not out of the ground, not out of a fryer, not out of Apple's headquarters. You have to get it from the market, from those that have it. And so if you want more Bitcoin, you got to bid it to a higher price. So that is what we're seeing. Bitcoin is the most performant asset in the world because it's the scarcest asset in the world. It's the only asset that demands higher price for more supply. That's what we're seeing, period. And for all the people that are like, well, Bitcoin, you know what it is? It's just correlated to the stock market. It's just correlated to the election. No, Bitcoin is not a hedge. Everything else in the world outside of Bitcoin, precious metals like gold, are correlated to earnings, to cash flows, to performance, to quarterly reports. Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is a solution. It is not a hedge. Bitcoin is a solution. It is not a hedge. Bitcoin, when you look at Bitcoin, it's the best reflection of currency debasement. It's the most performant reflection of currency debasement. That's all it is. And so Bitcoin is not a hedge. Bitcoin is a solution. Bitcoin is the only scarce thing you can own, period. Your time and your Bitcoin. Everything else you can make more of. That's it. That's it. That's why the only two things I value are my life and my Bitcoins. Nothing else matters to me because you can always make more of them.
Well said. Well said. It's the tried and true quote. You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. And, you know, he's kind of reframing this narrative that Bitcoin is an investment. He actually makes it very clear that Bitcoin is actually the base layer of society. And when the base layer of society is broken, everything else starts to break too. You know, what's that WTF happened in 1971 website? That's like the biggest proof of all of that. If you notice that when we went off the gold standard, everything else in society just started to fail. And I love what he said, you know, quote, if the world can't change Bitcoin, but Bitcoin can change the world, then the game board is fixed and we're just watching the players adapt. So if you contrast that with gold, oh, yes. This is the WTF happened in 1971. I really love this website. I always show it to my parents or my friends who are skeptical about Bitcoin because it's not about Bitcoin at all. It's about broken money. And I think that's the point that Mahlers is making here, is that we shouldn't just look at it as number go up technology, although that incentivizes the masses to buy Bitcoin and eventually it will be the reason that hyper Bitcoinization happens. I think that the bigger sell on Bitcoin is that it fixes broken money. And so when you start looking at this chart, when you start looking at WTF happened in 1971, you start realizing that because we went off the gold standard, because we went off of hard money, the world just started to collapse. I think there's a stat in there about marriage rates and
Yes.
divorce rates and how they just skyrocketed in 1971.
This is dual income couples, and then there was where's the marriage rates? I know exactly what you're talking about. You can keep talking and I'll find it.
Well, yeah, the point is, you know, the number go up technology is the thing that's going to get people through the door for sure. You guys have all gotten the text from your friends. Hey, can I ask you about that Bitcoin thing? Can I ask you about that crypto thing? Can you tell me a little bit more about that when we're at all-time high prices, right? And that is what starts to pique people's interest. But what makes people full on Bitcoiners, full on maxis with all-time toxicity levels is the peaceful revolution that changes the course of your life. It doesn't just fix, you know, your economic problems. It makes you realize that your economic problems are beyond financial. They're actually about how you treat other people, how you are compensated yourself, how hard you're working in your personal life, and how to level up your personal life. So in contrast with gold is, you know, something that it's the shiny rock, right? And although I love it, I love to wear jewelry. I think that, you know, gold is definitely a hell of a lot better than fiat. Bitcoin just makes this hard asset a lot more accessible to a lot more people. It's actually a lot more inclusive. You can transport it with more ease. You can, there's a finite amount. Gold, you know, there might be an asteroid out in space that we blow up one day and find an insane amount of gold or other precious metals that actually end up competing with gold. Bitcoin has a finite supply, and that is actually, you know, the best part, one of the best parts of it. It's infinitely divisible. So I think Chris pulled up the median age of first marriage here, and
this is the divorce rate increase by percentage points as well.
So, you know, as you can see, less people than ever are having children. And I really do think that that's directly correlated to the fact that we don't have a solid money system. And it's great that, you know, people are predicting at, you know, 135K at the end of this week, or 200K maybe by the end of the year, but the real signal is life changing. Literally, like, more kids, more marriages, more family. Look, yeah, I love what this guy said, Dr. Daniel Howell. Money equals the #1 cause of marital fights. It's because money is the base layer of society, and when it's broken, you can't do anything else. Anyway, I've been ranting for a little bit. Chris, what are your thoughts?
No, I think Jack Mallers hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, talking about Bitcoin is the only scarce thing. I was actually in this debate the other night. I was out to dinner with a bunch of colleagues, and they were saying like, "Oh, well, they knew me as the Bitcoin guy. They're like, oh yeah, but see, you want to buy real estate because like they're not making any more land or any more real estate." I'm like, yeah, but they're always building up. Like Japan's the most populous city in the world, or Manhattan, or all these big cities, and they just keep building up. Or maybe they'll eventually start building into the ground. I know Elon Musk with the Boring Company, but like Bitcoin is finite and scarce, and they like kind of. I don't want to be mean, but they kind of weren't grasping that. They're like, oh, well, stocks are finite and scarce, and bonds. I was like, well, they're not really. They could always, issue more stock shares, or they could always issue more bonds, or real estate, they could always build more. And then they weren't even getting to the point of the costs or the expenses. They're like, oh, well, if you buy real estate and rent it out, like, yes, you can get cash flow if you're obviously taking in more income than it costs to pay the mortgage and all of that. But they're missing the point of like, houses break down, houses need new roofs, the water heater breaks, the toilet breaks, there's an issue where someone gets hurt on your property and then you have to go into insurance and that costs you more money. There's a lot more fixed costs. And not only that, there's ways that people can take it. Like, at the end of the day, like if someone's holding, we're not saying to advocate for violence, but if someone is threatening you or your family, and if you have Bitcoin, if they were to harm you in any way, that incapacitate you, that you are not able to give up your secret, your Bitcoin dies, and it basically, strengthens the resolve of the network and makes everything more valuable. Where if you're at home or you have a car or something like that, they can steal it or confiscate it. Or, if they remove you from that area, they can actually take that from you. Where Bitcoin actually requires cooperation in order to get your Bitcoin. The best way to get Bitcoin outside of mining it or buying it is providing a good service that a Bitcoiner deems is good enough for them to part with their Bitcoin. So it establishes cooperation, I think, better than any money ever. Because when you look at the petrodollar, Sophie, obviously the petrodollar is kind of the system we've had since the 70s, since we came off the gold standard. We've had endless wars, the 21st century with the Federal Reserve being established in 1913, as well as coming off the gold standard. This has been the bloodiest century of all time. And it looks like that trend's not slowing down as we're in the 21st century, the 22nd century. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's only continuing. Nothing has changed. We're, funding more conflict around the world every single day. And that's only because of the money printer, right? That's only because we have this infinite money supply that empowers the very, very top echelon of society while keeping everybody else enslaved. And I think that obviously affects every other part of society. And if we start to change, if we start to adopt Bitcoin, even if that's through greedy means of number go up, hey, I'll take it. Because it's like you said, in a Bitcoin standard, people are not incentivized to steal your Bitcoin. They're incentivized to actually like go out and earn it, because it's more economically feasible to go out and earn it than to pay hackers or spend all of this time trying to hack somebody's wallet, which not even the US government can do. So anyway, I want to move on to the next segment. We're going to move into the news. We're going to cover this article of Trump promising perhaps some simi checks. So yeah, we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
We'd like to give a huge thanks to our new sponsor, BitKey. It's right here. BitKey is so simple. Your grandma can use it. And mine is actually here helping me today with my kid. So I'll be teaching her how to use it. So if your grandma stacks sats, she might end up richer than you if she ends up using this BitKey. You want to use the promo code, which we have right here. Scan the QR code to get 20% off with Simply Bitcoin.
Sophie, I got my dad a BitKey. He loves it. He's like, it's great. It's nice. It feels good. It's a great boomer device to give to your family members.
I love that. I love that. Nico's yelling at me. This is actually a wallet, believe it or not. It might not look like your typical wallet, but it is a wallet. It really is super easy to use. I've gotten my whole family on it now. And so you definitely want to get yourself one and maybe orange pill some friends. I mean, it looks like it's giving iPhone. It's giving Apple. It's super chic. Anyway, let's get into the news. I have this article from the New York Post. Trump considering $2,000 tariff dividend for Americans. It's sounding like a stimmy check. It's giving stimmy check. It's reminiscent of 2020 and 2021. Let's read the article. President Trump said Thursday he's still weighing the idea of giving Americans up to $2,000 in rebates derived from the revenues his tariff agenda has generated. Trump's proposal to share some of the hundreds of billions of dollars the federal government has collected since he slapped foreign nations with steep levies in April comes as the Supreme Court is slated to hear arguments in a case next month that will decide whether the president has the power to impose such sweeping global tariffs. They're just starting to kick in, Trump said of the tariffs in an interview with One America News Network. But ultimately, your tariffs are going to be over $1 trillion a year. So last time he gave these stimmy checks, I was really happy about it because I used it to smash buy Bitcoin. And this isn't a traditional stimulus. This isn't like the previous times. I'm not going to mention what it was, but a certain virus. It's actually funded via the tariffs that he implemented. So we're kind of like being compensated back for paying a little bit extra, like if we bought something abroad. But yes, thank you for pulling this up. The Bitcoin magazine had reported that if you had bought Bitcoin with your $1,400 stimulus check, it would now be worth $21,000, which I think is pretty poetic. It's actually probably worth a little bit more now. $22,000 actually, according to bitcoinstimulus.net. So that's awesome. If he actually ends up doing it, I know what I'm going to be doing with my stimmy check. But what are your thoughts, Chris? Do you think that this injection is just going to lead to more inflation? Or or are people going to be smarter this time and buy some Bitcoin?
Oh, definitely it's going to lead to more inflation. I mean, we saw it in the past and history is going to repeat itself. I mean, I give Trump props. You got props where props are due with the tariffs to try and bring in revenue, but bring in revenue through global tariffs. But we don't have like a money problem in terms of like raising money or getting money. I mean, what the US government collects like $6 trillion in taxes or 5 trillion, whatever the number is, but we spend like 2 trillion more than we take in. So we don't have necessarily like a getting money problem or, collecting tariffs and taxes. We have a spending problem. And I know with the big, beautiful bill, he was pushing it as a good thing. Many Bitcoiners and libertarians are like, yeah, like you say, this is a great thing for tax breaks, but we're actually gonna be spending $9 trillion additionally over the next 10 years. So that's only adding to the inflation. Yeah, we might puff up the economy now, gold, stocks, bonds, real estate, everything's gonna go up because they're gonna keep printing money. But Bitcoin's the best against irresponsible government. And this isn't just a knack against the US government. Governments across the world are all irresponsible. If all of them were to become responsible overnight, yeah, there'd be a ton of pain and, civil unrest to say the least. You'd hope that there'd be no violence, but historically that is what always happens. And it's normally not good for the politicians that are in power at that current moment. But we show over history of the long arc of the world that all these governments are fiscally irresponsible. They're going to keep printing money till the money printer breaks. And at the end of the day, that's going to make assets such as Bitcoin go up. And Bitcoin's the best horse in the race. So it's going to go up the fastest, the longest, and the most price appreciation. For those who've read the Fourth Turning or When Money Dies, it talks about the issues or the things that happened in Weimar Germany, and ultimately when they were experiencing a hyperinflation crisis. And you don't even have to look as far back as the 1930s in Germany. You can look at Argentina. Sophie, in our lifetime, Argentina is a G20 nation, meaning they're a top 20 nation in the world. They have had 5 hyperinflation events in 30 years, Sophie. 30 years they've hyperinflated their country 5 different times. Lebanon, Sri Lanka, like the list goes on and on. And, this is kind of the theory that a lot of the bond traders like Greg Foss or even like Larry Lepard talk about, that over time, like hyperinflation is going to happen in these smaller nations, and they're going to go up into the bigger currencies, such as the US dollar, the Chinese yuan, the Japanese yen. The Japanese are already seeing like a shaky economy with their currency. But over time, the hyperinflation like it centralizes to one currency. And obviously, the Chinese yuan and the US dollar are going to come head to head at one point. You hope there's not a kinetic war that comes with that. But over time, they're going to centralize to the largest currencies in the world. And we think that Bitcoin is going to be the best horse in the race because of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is why Bitcoiners say don't save in dollars, save in sats, because ultimately, even if they do these stimmy checks, the inflation's just going to eat up your savings. So if you do get this stimulus check, put it into Bitcoin. I mean, that's my opinion. That's not financial advice. I just think that given the fact that our currency is constantly getting debased, it's probably wise that you don't keep it in Bitcoin. And actually, that leads to the next tweet that we were going to pull up by Heavily Armed Clown. The April 2020 stimulus was 0.15 Bitcoin. And now this time, they only want to give people 0.0165 Bitcoin. What gives? I think that's hilarious. I mean, we're getting less stimmy in real terms. And so the illusion is just breaking in real time. Like, imagine telling someone in 2020 that future checks would buy you even less if the number was the same.
Yeah, and if you're
that's inflation.
Yeah. And if you're pricing it in Bitcoin, that's an 85-90% reduction in purchasing power. Like, if you think about it, that's insane. You're going from 0.15 to 0.0165. So like almost 85, almost 90% reduction in purchasing power over just 5 years. I mean, yeah, like a little over 5 years at that point.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that as inflation rises and as money printer goes burr, more people who have money in hand have the potential, maybe not the promise, but definitely the potential to buy Bitcoin. This is why Nico says Bitcoin is for anybody, but it's not for everybody. I hope I'm not butchering that.
I got one more chart to share. So this is priced in Bitcoin. I know that, Sophie, I know you've seen this chart before, and Nico is one of his favorites. Do you want to go through it, or do you want me to talk through it?
No, talk through it. I want to see what you're.
So-
I'm like trying to read on this very small.
Oh, sorry.
screen what it
Yeah.
is.
So in the primary benchmarks, this is showing, you know, the US dollar, gold, crude oil, the S&P 500, strategy, Big Macs. We got a story for the culture with you about McDonald's. The United States median new
Yes.
houses. So it's showing over a 1 month, year to date, 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year. Basically, it's showing over time, all of these are getting is getting cheaper over time when you price it in Bitcoin. So I think the only thing that was doing well right now is Robinhood stock. But, you know, over the long haul, I do think Bitcoin is going to outperform Robinhood. But like any of these stocks, over a long enough time horizon, they have negative yield in terms relative to Bitcoin. So when you're pricing it in Bitcoin over a long enough time horizon, basically it's going to have a negative yield, meaning that Bitcoin is outperforming all assets. What's the quote that Michael...
Unless you buy strategy and just this year, gold.
Definitely. But yeah, this is a very good website. For a while, it was down. Like there was issues with it for a couple months. And Opti and I were saying, like, does it look like they're getting DDoSed or attacked? But, you know, glad to have this up and running again. And it's something that's cool to reference every once in a while.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things, like once you go on a Bitcoin standard, you really do start using that website as the general motor of your brain when you start thinking about what to spend money on and what to spend your time and energy on. You start pricing everything in Bitcoin. You're like, damn, do I really want to buy this like useless thing that doesn't really like serve me very well and that I might forget about in 2 seconds just because I want short-term instant gratification? No, because I could just buy Bitcoin and get something that is going to last generations and actually give me life fulfillment instead of, you know, the fast fashion, fast paced, social media driven, like kind of happiness that is ultimately fake and based on nothing. So priced in Bitcoin, important. Show that one to your family and friends, and that website was a huge part of me orange pilling my family.
That's good. That's awesome.
Because they were always telling me, you need to diversify, you need to put money in real estate or, you know, start a business or whatever. And I was just like, let me show you something. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Anyway, we're going to move on to the culture. Like Chris had mentioned, we have a super fun story for you guys regarding the McRib. So we'll be right back after these messages.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
We also want to thank our friends at Mining Disrupt who are hosting the biggest mining conference ever, November 11th through the 13th in Dallas, Texas. You can use our promo code simplybitcoin. It's right there in the QR code. Scan the QR code, get yourself some tickets. You're going to see some of the biggest names in Bitcoin and mining. And I think we'll be there. So we'll see you there. And let's move on to this next. Oh, God, I can't even believe that we're talking about this. So the McRib is back, according to Internet Bra. Bitcoin has historically gone up 2x after the McRib returns, according to this tweet. Don't fade the McRib, not financial advice. Love this. Love this. Oops.
Don't hate
Anyway,
the
I'm just gonna
signal,
keep
Sophie.
the
Don't hate
anyway.
the signal.
I'm not hating the signal. I'm just laughing because we live in a simulation. But anyway, yeah, the McRib apparently often is a recession indicator, inflation spikes, or it comes back right before Bitcoin pumps. I believe last time it came back, like I said, Bitcoin did double. So forget the moving averages. I trade in McRib indicator. And so obviously I had to fact check this, right? And it looks like it's not exactly back in the United States yet. It's returning to New Zealand. According to mcriblocator.com/blog. They're also offering a BBQ bandit sandwich that includes a beef burger, cheese, bacon, onion rings, whatever. Don't need seed oils. But what does this mean? This means that the culture. Oh, right. I wanted to show this little bit of the video. This is so funny. This is so silly. This is what they're using for their commercial. Anyway, definitely a recession indicator. That's us getting slobbered in gains. This is so funny.
This hurts. This is cringe.
So is this a recession indicator or is it bullish? Are we living in a simulation? Does McDonald's secretly hold Bitcoin ETFs? What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'll say in El Salvador, I'm pretty sure I have not been there, but I know you and Nico and Opti and Jacob have been there. Did you guys go to McDonald's to buy your meal in sats?
No, we went to Panda Express
Did they accept
though.
Bitcoin, though?
No, they didn't actually.
bummer.
We asked, and
I know,
they
but
did
I know
not,
McDonald's was
so.
one of the first corporations, along with like Starbucks. I know what's that rib place or the Wingstop? I think is the place that now accepts Bitcoin as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm saying don't fade the McRib indicator. I think Bitcoin has cycles and patterns. I think this is one of the most bullish ones. I know it's not back in the U.S. back. I think it normally comes back in like November, December timeframe. So once December comes back, we're rip roaring when the McRib officially comes back. So yeah, I wouldn't fade it. I definitely think
That's actually a very convenient time for me, because if Bitcoin is going to be ripping in November, December, and then we get a 2x from there, I mean, we might be looking at more than 200K at the end of the year. We might actually be looking at like closer to 300K if my math serves me well. I don't know. It wasn't my strong suit in school, but it's the perfect storm between meme and macro. And I love it when life imitates art. So, like I said, we're living in a simulation.
I would agree.
Honestly. Anyway, guys, that was our show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Chris,
No
for
problem,
joining
Sophie.
us.
You did great today. So lovely as always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know that I'm cutting it a little bit short. Like I said, this is like my first time really taking the reins on the show. If you liked the show, smash the like button, share the show with your friends. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you Monday. Have a happy Friday. Go touch some grass, spend time with your family and friends. And Also, stay tuned for another episode of Satoshi dropping between tomorrow and Sunday. Anyway, stay blessed, guys.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.